Possession processing. Objects are liable to break down or need maintenance, and here the quality of the repair service is not dependent on the owner of the possession being present whilst the service operation takes place. The service is being done to physical objects, but nonetheless we, as owners of our possessions, are going through a service experience whilst our possessions are being processed. And you can think of possession processing as being anything that involves the nouns such as cleaning, storing, repairing, couriering, installing, removing. All of these are typical possession processing activities. And it's a big area of business and fundamental to a lot of industries. Mental stimulus processing involves people having to become mentally involved in the service interaction and give time and cognitive attention in order that they experience the benefits of the value proposition of the service. Education has always been a form of mental stimulus processing. So you are consuming a mental stimulus service product at the moment as a student. Going to the casino is a form of mental stimulus processing. You might have done an escape room, team building day, or game with your friends. That's a contemporary example of a mental stimulus process service. Whenever there is a service experience taking place, there is almost always a form of information processing that's going on to accompany that. If you think of checking into a hotel, the hotel needs to know your name and they might need some passport details. They'll need to know how long you're staying for and perhaps some of your preferences. There are all kinds of points of information, points of data that service businesses need to handle and move to in different stages of the customer journey towards different departments or different partners who are going to contribute to your service experience. And in the dawn of the digital age, information processing has become more important to services marketing because information processing has taken the place of other aspects of processing. For example, things that used to involve people processing now just involve information processing through digital data. The final thing that we will add to the marketing mix to reflect the characteristics of services is people. Whenever there is a service encounter taking place, it is usually being co-created at least by two people on either side of the dynamic, the producer of the service, the deliverer, and the consumer. And there is no better example than cabin crew on aircraft. And this is why an academic called Arlie Hochschild studied cabin crew when she looked into the emotional impact on service delivery on the people doing the production of the service. She called this emotional labour, and this has more recently been likened to an assembly line in the head, just like a factory production line, only it's a list of things that service providers have to think, feel, and say, perhaps in a particular order, to deliver the service style and quality of their organisation. You can just think of the constant stress of long hours, jet lag, tight turnarounds, rules and regulations for the aircraft and rules and regulations for uniform and appearance, scripts to be read out in multiple language, and then unruly passengers, perhaps drunk passengers. It's understandable why Hochschild was so interested in studying cabin crew and service delivery, because what she described this process to be was called the managed heart. You have the individual who is producing and delivering the service, and then you have the service design, the style of service that they are required to deliver. And sometimes it's difficult to determine where the individual ends and the performance of that service design begins. So it's no wonder that Hochschild found that many cabin crew found work rather challenging and were often rather stressed and upset in their work. So having looked at people, we have now completed our tour of the three things that we are adding to the marketing mix to reflect the characteristics of services. We're adding physical evidence or tangible cues, we're adding processes, and we're adding people. So physical evidence are the cues that we are using to try and manage the consumer decision-making risk, the risk we perceive as consumers when we're trying to decide whether or not we want to engage and give our money towards paying for a service. We looked at the 4 different types of processes that are involved in services marketing and understood the way that they often will overlap and work together in order to create that service experience, looking at services as a process, as a journey. And finally, we've acknowledged the importance of people within services marketing. We need to think of marketing strategies that we can use to make sure that people impact positively on the service experience. And these people aren't necessarily staff, they're also customers. So part of service design is about managing those involved in order to allow them to perform positively. To summarize, we've looked at the services mix, which tells us there is almost always a combination of goods and services on a spectrum from pure product to pure service that is being delivered when we're consuming something. Services are considered to be processes, from the simple steps of going from the waiting room into your doctor's surgery, or the complex actions necessary to manage thousands of cruise passengers on a 2-week cruise. And we've added 3 extra P's to the 4 P's of the marketing mix. We've added physical evidence or tangible cues, processes, and people. That concludes part 3 of services marketing. Next, in part 4, we're going to be looking at service quality and managing service failure.